remedial measures. So there's things that people really love that it's got you can prescribe gemstones, beautiful gemstones that can help with these planetary energies.
So like crystals? Is that when you say gemstones?
Well, more like diamonds and
Ooh,
rubies.
okay,
and,
this is getting better.
Those kinds of crystals, emeralds. So you can prescribe those. Some might be good for your whole life. Some maybe for just certain periods to help you through certain things or help enhance your career, things like that. And then there's other things like mantras or herbs. When people come to me for a reading, they are at a decision point. There was this woman recently who asked, she had studied for years, and she thought she might want to be an artist. And we looked at her chart, and there was lawyer written all over it. And what's interesting is, as I could see this, and I could see these patterns, and so it's predictive in that sense that not only was there lawyer written all over it, but the period she was just about to go into would have been great for that, where she would be fulfilled, she would earn good money. You can see that that's the rhythm of what's going on right now.
So Patricia, what practical areas of people's lives can you work with Vedic astrology?
Well, actually you can work with every area of life, and they're all intertwined. Still, I want to mention kind of a few highlights. And I think I would like to say up front, too, that as we work with these areas of people's lives, because it's predictive again, and what you can see is the long rhythms, but we also can always zero in and see shorter rhythms as
when you
well.
say, I just need you to open that up a little bit. When you say long rhythms and short rhythms, are we talking about time spans?
Yeah,
okay.
time spans.
Excellent.
Yeah, you can get a whole lifetime overview.
Right.
In a reading, or you can say, I have this situation going on, what's going on, and we can look in real detail and see. And that's because there's something specific to Vedic astrology called dashas, or planetary periods, and it's built in and it's really powerful. And then the other thing we can do for each of these areas is there's something else specific to Vedic astrology, which is called vargas, which are divisional charts. So for every area of life, there's also a smaller chart that we can look at to either confirm or get more details. And I'll show you an example of this when we look at
when we get to the charts.
Look at your charts.
Yeah, I'm going to get a little bit, just a little mini reading today. I'm really excited about it.
But essentially the areas of life there's your vocation. And I use that term because that's what you love to do, or what you do, how you interact with the world. It can be your career if money's involved, and that's kind of the way I think of it. You can look at your finances as well. And there's these neat things also specific to Vedic astrology called yogas. And yoga means union. So it's like combinations of certain planets where you can find out, as far as career, for example, what kinds of things you will be fulfilled at and be good at doing. So both of those things. And then there's things called dana yogas, which are good for seeing where the money's going to show up. And lots of
Where's
times,
the money? Where's the money?
Well, and
I bet that's pretty big right now.
It is big right now, and also, and money isn't always attached to people's careers, but when it is, it's like, so what career can I go into to make money? And you can look at, sometimes there's trade-offs. Well, here you might be happier, but here's a little more money, and you'll be pretty happy, so there's that, and you tell people this, and you can see it with these tools. There's health, of course. It's very holistic. There's a whole integrated system that you're working with. So I can look at people's charts and tell even what type of Ayurvedic, their dosha, and or constitutional. That's what I was kind of looking for. Their constitution, you can see the fire or the air so you can even tell how to work with their diet or with herbs based on their chart to help with things that might not even seem related to that, because it's all connected.
I love that, because last week we had a guest on, Phyllis, with Radiant Health Strategies, and she talked a lot about synergy. And it sounds like that's where we're going a little bit here, that there's a little bit of synergy going on with the Vedic astrology, with Ayurveda, with diet, with all of that.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, and the other area is spiritual. When you can kind of guide them as to where they can get their best growth. Besides the fact that there's a whole philosophy around it. You know, the whole Eastern philosophy and the Hindu philosophy that you can work with.
And so is this an Indian, like where does Vedic astrology actually come from? Are we talking an Indian kind
Yeah,
of?
it does. It comes from India, and it is based in the Vedas, and so that's why it's so tied in with the spiritual liberation. Yeah.
What about the big one? What about relationships? Can you use your chart to work on your relationships?
You know, it's amazing actually what you can do in Vedic astrology, especially with relationships, because it has your primary relationship. You can see that in there. You can see all your relationships, the relationships with your children, with business partners, with co-workers, everyone, your children, your siblings, all of those. And then what's really neat too is when you use these Varga charts that I mentioned, you can actually look at the chart of children. You can look at the chart of your parents. You can look at the chart of your spouse, and you can see more about your relationship with them. There was one client I had where she was asking some questions about her mother, who had been having real ups and downs with her health. And as I was looking, this was an annual chart, so I was looking at details, and I said, you know, did your mother have surgery a couple weeks ago? And she said, yes. How did you know that? And it's because I was looking at the Dvadashamsha chart, which is the chart of the parents. And I could also see something related to a serpent. And I wasn't sure quite what that meant. Well, it turned out that she had her stomach. She had to have her stomach pumped or something like that, to where they were working with her.
Digestion.
Yes. And
wow.
So it's kind of interesting, the symbols that show up.
And are these symbols that are in the chart? Because I know you're also an intuitive channel. So what I'm wondering kind of is, are you seeing these symbols because you're picking up as an intuitive channel, or is this every Vedic astrologer is seeing what you see in the chart?
You know, that's a great question too. It's a combination, because there is so much information in these charts. I mean, if you give somebody a reading, I could go on for days and days. And you need to actually try to kind of narrow things in and pin them down. And what you find yourself doing is kind of just free associating with all the symbols, because there's so many. And that's where I think some intuition comes in. That's why it's an art and a science. You get a reading from any different astrologer would give you a completely different reading. And so part of it too is that connection that you develop with each other.
I love that you can use it for just about anything in your life, you know. And I don't really have a whole lot going on right now, you know, in terms of issues I want to deal with, but I am kind of interested in getting into my chart. In fact, I'm really interested because when I saw this chart, I noticed, let's see, where's my chart here? We've got a couple. On my chart, I noticed that my sun sign, it looked like was in Aries.
Yes.
I know, and I'm just such a Taurus, and I love my Taurus part, and I was like, oh my God, I'm really an Aries.
Oh, I know. We get attached to our sun sign. I know. Well, that's actually one of the biggest differences, is this idea of which zodiac we use. And I'll explain that
Excellent.
before that has to get explained before we start looking at these. But the idea is that in Vedic astrology, we use the sidereal zodiac. And in Western astrology, they use the tropical zodiac. Tropical means sun, and sidereal means stars. So in Vedic astrology, what we do is we say, well, gee, where's Mars right now? And if we look up in the sky and we see Mars, we look at the constellation it's in, the stars that it's in. And if it's, say, in Aries, say it's in Taurus, your Mars is in Taurus. We see Taurus right there. Well, so that's how we do it. That's how astronomers would do it. They would say Mars is in Taurus right now.
Right.
But what Western astrology does is they use the tropical zodiac, and that's sun-based. And so what they do is they say on the first day, on vernal equinox, the first day of spring, we're going to say the sun is at 0 degrees Aries, because Aries is the first sign, and 0 degrees the very beginning of the zodiac.